Today you'll see a lot of little ideas that you can apply to several patterns, lots of styles that can just simplify the sewing process in the end and just give the pattern another look. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing, and I'm excited to share a piece that I have handcrafted with a lot of dedication for the last couple of days. It took a while to figure out exactly what I wanted to do. Sometimes sewing for me can end up being a longer process because I know from the get-go that I do want to make changes to the original pattern. Figuring out how many, how much, how little to do to still keep the essence of the pattern takes a lot of thinking and planning, and I don't rush my projects at all. I take the time that they deserve. So I'm being honest to say that this one took longer than others, but just the planning phase, not the actual sewing phase. What you're gonna see today are small changes I made to the pattern that actually make the sewing a little more simple. The pattern I've used is a Presto tunic from Love Notions. And if you've been following along, Love Notions has been updating older patterns to include a better size range, and it's been a process that's taken a few years. So now we have this pattern from extra small to 5X with a standard bust and a full bust. It's just been revised. You can get a feature weekend. It's not just a feature Friday like usual. So you can grab this really cool pattern for only $5 for the whole weekend, not just today. Always my links are down below, my affiliate link, and all the videos I mentioned in the pinned comments and in the description box. This is a pattern for woven fabrics. It has many options. If you are not into tunics, no worries, because you can always adjust the length. I don't wear tunics. I either wear tops or dresses, so the fact that it's labeled a tunic doesn't faze me at all because I could just make it into a top. It's got a lot of fitting features that are super helpful. There's bust studs. There are optional waist studs if you want to sew them in. They are there on the pattern. And I have already made a few videos about this pattern, and I've been making it pretty much every year, once a year. The first one I made was in 2019. I chose the banded collar option there because you can also just finish it with bias tape and just a simple front panel right here. And instead of making it a top, I just extended it into a dress with a sash. That's a very pretty dress that no longer fits me, but I really enjoyed it, and I do have a video about it. And in that one, I show the detail of how to sew this panel with the corners, how to stabilize the corners, and the banded collar. Although in that video, I'm showing you the banded collar with a billion pins, which is not what I usually do. It's not what I do now. I did do that in the past sometimes, and I actually filmed it like that. But I do have a better video about banded collars where you can see my favorite way and other ways that are not really my favorite. So always helpful content is linked down below when I mention some techniques. Then in 2020, I made one for my mom in a really heavy embroidered rayon, super pretty. There's a 3/4 length sleeve option. For that one, I just extended the length to be full length. And to make this a little narrower, I just added a few pleats and just made a cuff that fits my mom's wrist. Very beautiful. That one, fabric was a little hard to work with, but my mom really enjoys that one. Then I made this one that you see right here in 2021. Love this one because it's got pintucks here on the front panel. You can sew the front panel plain or add a bunch of pintucks, and that's what I've done with this one. This is a Presto tunic I made in 2021. It's 100% rayon, super lightweight. I love the print. The background here is dark, which I usually like, and it's dark brown this time. So I've matched it with my brown glissando bottoms. Just above my ankle, I really do like this length because, you know, you can show off your sandals or just wear a little bootie underneath. I think this length is versatile. This is a really comfortable, wearable top. I can just throw it on and it feels like I'm wearing a neat t-shirt, but I'm not. And with this one, I do have a sleeve. Originally, the Presto is shorter in the front and longer in the back. There's always that vent right there, but I always just straighten mine out because I don't really wear tunics. I just wear tops or dresses. So that's always something you can change. At the back, you do have optional waist studs. You can sew them if you want. I do always sew mine. I do add them to patterns that don't have them, so if they are there, I am going to sew them. And I would walk out exactly like this and be super comfortable. I love the combination of colors, autumnal colors I suppose, but I don't really guide the way I dress with colors that way. I just wear whatever color in whatever season. This neckline is finished with the bias tape option. Remember, there's also a banded collar that I've done twice in the past before. You can see that on the channel, but this time I just did the simple version, and that's because I spent a lot of time doing all these pintucks. So all the pintucks are going towards the center, and I know this would have been more apparent if I'd used a solid fabric, I've just sewn the buttons right through the placket. Shoulder and sleeve fit is really good. Rayon always feels amazing on. I love wearing blouses made out of rayon. Rayon always feels amazing on. It's one of my preferred fabrics. A little harder to work with, you know, all the details might take a little longer, do more hand basting than usual, but it's still worth it for me, and I still always love the result. The fabric just calls to me, just wear me, because this type of top feels so nice on. Beautiful, look at all this ease, it's just super wearable, and I absolutely love this one. You can see that for all of these versions, I've just straightened out the hem, chose a length that's nice for me. I can still have that split hem on the side. It's just a little shorter. The one I made last year was made with a beautiful quilting cotton. This is a Presto I made at the end of the year, last year, 2022. Beautiful print. This one is sleeveless, and you'll see the details up close. It's fabric is more structured, and believe it or not, this is a quilting cotton. I love the print. I could not pass this up, and this is a pattern that would work with a quilting cotton. And actually the whole blouse was so easy to work with because cotton is like that. There is quite a lot of green in this print, so I've just pulled out my green Taroko skirt from each to stitch. There is some burgundy in the print, so I've kept the same shoes I was wearing before. I really love this look as well. It's totally me. I feel amazing in a print top and a solid bottom. Linen bottom, cotton top, feels so nice on. The same as with all my Prestos, I have straightened out the hem, so it's the same front and back. Here is the vent. I do have the waist stud sewn as always. The pattern does have a bust start, which I think is amazing. I finished this neckline with bias tape, which is one of the options. And then we have this panel here. We have a corner and it goes into there, and with a placket that is just up to here. You don't need to open up the buttons to get these through your head. So I didn't do functional buttonholes. I just sewed the buttons right through the placket right there. I really love this top. If you have beautiful quilting cottons around, which I'm sure a lot of you do, and you're gonna have such an easy time making the pattern, especially if it's the first time you're making it, just so you can get used to the techniques, you have a really nice experience. And I think this looks pretty. For me, quilting cotton is all about the print. You know, this print could have been done on a rayon, on any other material, and I would have liked it. If you have a fabric that's a little more structured, any type of cotton, linen is gonna work amazingly because you don't need drape for this to look nice. Although if you use rayon like this and it drapes, it's fine, but it's not that you need it. You can use structured fabrics, and that actually makes it a little easier. Now for this time, this is when I'm having the fun. I want to make small changes. I'm going to show you. You can mix and match. You can do only a few. You can do them all. They are sort of independent from each other for this pattern at least. So it doesn't mean that if you make one change, you have to make all the rest. You can sort of pick and choose. The first thing I wanted to change was to make the banded collar just be one piece, because the original pattern has a seam right here on the collar that will match the shoulder seams. So you'd have a front piece, and a back piece with a little seam right there. And that can be eliminated, so you can just get one collar. Now this collar is a little different to other banded collars you've seen in the past that are a little straighter. Those straighter type of banded collars are drafted for a higher neckline, like a proper button up where it's up to here, where the curve is a little more shallow. But this one has a lower neckline and the banded collar, so in the end you come up with a sort of more rounded shape. So let's see how that's done. Super easy. If you want to sew the banded collar on the Presto, you'll find two little pieces. This is going to be the back that's on the fold, and if that's on the fold, of course that's the grain line, and this is the shoulder seam that would match the shoulder seam of the top. So here we have a grain line mark as well. Now I just want to eliminate that seam to just make the collar one continuous piece. So I've drawn the seam allowance 3/8 of an inch just below there, the raw edge of the paper. What I'm going to do now is overlap these seam allowances. I'm just going to put the red line on top of the red line here. That way we eliminate that seam allowance and it would just be one continuous piece. So in order to do that, I have to flip the pattern piece over like that, and now I'll have one collar piece. You can see it's quite rounded. Put it like it will be. That's the back. This will be like this, of course, and this is going to go forward towards the front. Now some banded collars are a little more flat in the shape, but that's usually because the neckline is higher, so the curve of the neck is just more shallow. But the technique will be exactly the same. I'm just going to make a new pattern piece. And then replicate it over like that, so I have the full piece I'm going to make sure to mark my reference points here that are on this original pattern piece. So I do want to mark where the seam was supposed to be, right here on the pattern. And there's also one here on the middle of the front. My collar piece is ready to go. I have the marks here that are going to match the shoulder seams. I have the other marks in the middle of the front neckline. That's going to be the center. I've marked my grain line. I'm going to be cutting a piece of fabric slightly larger than this, interfacing that first, and then cutting this out so I can block fuse and make sure this stays the original shape. Now, one layer is going to be interfaced and the other one is going to be non-interfaced. And that was going to save me a lot of time rather than having all these little pieces. In the end, the fit is the same. It's the same collar. It just doesn't have that seam there anymore, which in the end makes it easier to sew. Now, the second thing I wanted to change was the way that this placket is sewn. So this is only a half placket. It comes up to here, up to sort of the full bust. The original pattern has a separate placket piece that you interface the same way that you finish the aria shirt and the ballad blouse. I just wanted to make it easier again and just extend this center front piece so that I could just have an extended placket where I just fold it back to the inside. So let me show you how to do that for this little piece if you want to try simplifying that. In the end, it's going to look the same. It's still going to be interfaced. It'll still look nice. It's just going to be easier to sew. This is the front panel of the Presto, and this has the same technique as the aria and the ballad. It's a really easy placket that you would interface first, and then you sew that on the wrong side and then flip it to the other side. I want to simplify this and just extend this so that it can be an extended placket that I could just fold back. I've done the exact same process with one of my aria shirts before. I'm not going to be using this, and I just put extra paper behind my pattern piece right here on the center. We know that the seam allowance is 3/8, so I'm just going to draw that here in red. There we go. So from that line, I'm going to draw an inch out. When we were sewing this at 3/8, this is going to be the final center of the piece right here. So it's going to end up being the same width here. It's not going to affect the collar. Everything will fit exactly the same way. We are not going to be sewing this placket on here, and to achieve the same result in the center, we just take away that seam allowance, which is 3/8. That's going to be where I'm going to fold my extended placket back. And from here, I'm adding an inch, and then I'm adding 3/8 of an inch so I can fold it back. And I'm going to fold right here on that first red line, the first one we did, where the seam line would have been. And now I'm just going to follow the shape of the collar right here so this extended placket can be true to the shape. There's quite a nice curve here. You can see that curve there. And now I'm going to cut this. So this is going to be my new pattern piece with an extended placket here. It's going to be so much easier. When I cut my fabric, I'm going to make sure to interface this space first before I cut my piece. And then I'm going to be folding in by 3/8 like this, and then by an inch. And that's going to be my placket, and it's going to turn out exactly the same as the original. It's just that I'm not having to use a separate piece to do that. After doing those two changes came the third one, and this is the one that I 100% knew I was going to do from the very start of my thinking. And I wanted this to be fully open. So I wanted the placket to go from here all the way down to the hem and not just be partial. So I'm essentially turning this into a type of shirt button down because I want the placket to go all the way down. And all you have to do is change the center of the front piece that's originally cut on the fold. The change is so easy, so easy. I'm gonna be able to open this and wear it like a light layer, which is something that I always love doing. I have overlaid the panel on top of the front piece. This is gonna be sewn into here. We're gonna have a little corner right there. We're gonna have a placket right here. I have already changed my placket. But I've folded it back to how it's gonna be finished. Now on that corner, you see a little star mark, and at the bottom here, you also see a little star mark right there. These are just the intersection of seam allowances right here. So if you drew a line at 3/8 and then another line at 3/8, that would be the dot, and it's the same over here. Basically, I just want to align and put these little stars one on top of each other. This is where that little corner is gonna be and where we pivot and snip into the fabric. There's a notch right there. That notch should reach the middle. This front piece originally is cut on the fold. You would have this placket sort of up to the upper chest, and then this would be on the fold. But I want to extend all of this to have a placket as well because I want to make an open top like a shirt. Making sure that those match the notch right here with the edge of the paper. I'm just going to pin it down nicely. And now behind my front piece, I'm going to add extra paper because I'm going to have to increase the width of this piece so that I can also incorporate a placket into here. Okay, so I have extra paper right here. Now I'm just going to extend my placket that I had already drawn. Now that I've extended my placket, I want this to be the same all the way down to here. It's actually exactly 2 inches. So from the front piece, you want to measure 2 inches out. And then from this line that we drew, I'm going to draw 3/8 in. And it's exactly the same as what I've done up here. I just want this placket to go all the way down. Up here, I'm going to straighten this out. Okay, so I basically have the same width now from this front panel and the bottom of the front piece, so that when I sew these together, I'm going to have a placket going all the way from the top, all the way down to the hem. I will still keep this corner here. If I wanted to pin tuck this piece, I could still do it. I would just interface this first and then start pin tucking away from that area. While I was here doing all of these little changes onto my pattern piece, I came up with the 4th little thing I wanted to do. Let me just interrupt the sewing bit here. I'm working on the table right now. How much do I enjoy doing this type of thing? It's just so much fun for me. And I've already made the Presto a few times. I know the pattern, I really know it well. I know how to sew it, I know how it fits, the features. So once I've done that a few times, just making small changes is so much fun. And my original idea was just to have a placket go all the way, because I want to wear this as a shirt and also open as a light layer. I dress like that a lot. It's just very, very convenient for the type of climate that I have here. So I always knew I wanted the placket to go all the way down, which is what I've just shown you. That was my original intent. Then I started thinking, what about if I do a few pin tucks? There's always ideas in my mind. And I have done a version with the full front panel with pin tucks. That takes quite a while. It's a lot of pin tucks. So remember the Juliet top, also by Love Notions, just has 2 or 3 pin tucks on the front, and it looks so pretty. It's such a lovely detail. And I think that's what's going to make this shirt extra special, actually. So I'll be just adding 2 or 3 pin tucks on the front. And this is something I just came up with now. It's like a middle ground of no pin tucks, just the front panel there, or full of pin tucks. Maybe let's just do like a little bit of pin tucks. So I'm going to show you now a little rectangle I'm going to draw and how I'm going to figure this out. It's so easy. Pin tucks are so easy. And I'm going to be using linen. It's going to be amazing to work with. And if I'm just doing 3 pin tucks, it means I'm just doing 3 rows on one side, 3 rows on the other, and not like 20 on, you know, a whole bunch. This is extremely fun for me because it just brings so much happiness. I envision something, I can already imagine it in my head, how it's going to be. And I'm just so excited. You cannot imagine. I'm so excited. There's actually a measurement of a rectangle that you can cut out and pin tuck the whole thing, and then cut this piece out, but I don't want to pin tuck the whole thing. So I just want some pin tuck details, but not the whole thing. 3 pin tucks. Considering that each pin tuck is going to take 1/2 inch extra width, I'm going to need an extra 1.5 inches of width in this piece. So I've just taken some paper. I've copied my extension here for the placket because I am going to be interfacing that before I sew on all the pin tucks. And I'm just roughly going to place this right here on top and just measure a good 2.5 inches out this way, so that I know I have enough space, so that it's enough to do the 3 pin tucks I want. So this is going to be my rectangle. This is my original piece. I want to achieve this piece in the end just with pin tucks already done. So I've drawn my placket. I'm going to cut this rectangle on fabric, interface that area first, and then I'm going to do some pin tucks. So let's just fold this back because I don't want a pin tuck right on the placket, right? That has to be free. The placket is going to be top stitched there, so I don't want pin tucks close to the area at all. So my first pin tuck is going to be 2 inches away, and I want 3. So I'm doing them 1 inch apart, the lines. So basically I'm going to have a little distance away from the placket, the first pin tuck, the second and the third. When I have all of that done, then I'm going to bring my pattern piece, put it on top, and then cut around the edge. And I'm going to be back to this original shape. It's just that I'll have the pin tucks there. I adding only a few pintucks I think was the most fun for me, because the original design has a plain panel or a full pintuck panel. This is fully pintucked here. So just having a few was also going to simplify it, but also make it not so plain. I was so excited. Now I knew that this little detail was really going to shine in contrast to this one, because this is a print. You can barely see it on camera. You can see it in person. So I'm using a solid this time, using a linen fabric that's sort of light to medium weight, a little drapey. You can see the rayon component in here, so I thought it was the perfect weight to do a shirt. So happy because it's exactly the way I envisioned it. You can see my banded collar has no seam here. Originally it would have a seam that matches the shoulder seam. The inner collar is the one that's not interfaced. The outer collar is the one that's interfaced, so it looks really smooth. You can see the rounded shape of this banded collar, and that's because the neckline is just lower. So if you were to button up this, you could just pull it on over your head. Your head would fit through there, but the difference in the shape doesn't change the technique at all. I do it in the exact same way that I prefer doing my banded collars. Remember, I have a type of masterclass about banded collars. You'll see there in detail how I like to do it, and that is the way I did it right here. The top stitching is in a color that's a little lighter. It's like a little tan color. I do have a short sleeve here. This is about 1 inch shorter than the original length of the sleeve, and that's just to make good use of my fabric. I'm actually using a leftover piece of fabric from other garments I'd made, so I was quite limited in the fabric. But that's nice. It doesn't have a lot of ease on the top. Very easy to sit in on the round. Remember, I have also a masterclass on setting in sleeves. So this is the most important feature. This is the panel right here. You can see that little corner and the horizontal seam and the 3 pintucks there. The placket now that is just folded back. So I had that first fold, then folded by 1 inch. This section is interfaced, and my buttonholes. And actually doing it like this was easier than the original version, because in the original version you have to overlap this first to then sew the bottom part that's on the fold. So I think that is a little more fiddly than just doing it all fully open like this. So you can see that the placket is just continuous. There is a seam there, but it continues down to the hem in the exact same way. And I really, really love doing this, and it's so easy. And I just love every detail about this. And on the back, it's on the fold. I do have the waist stud sewn there because why not? And then this is a little detail I have not included in today's video. I've done an overlap vent instead of the simple vent. I've actually done a buttonhole for the first one and functional, put a button through, and the other one, I didn't close it, but it's still an open buttonhole right there. I think that is very pretty and something extra I wanted to add. Don't worry, I'm preparing a standalone video about overlap vents where I'm going to show you how to do it various ways and that you can use them on different locations in your garments. So I didn't want to include that in this video. I prefer to make a separate one so you can have it as a resource. It's very easy, and I think it does add something extra to it, and I love it. It just turned out exactly like I wanted it to be. I know it's not the most exciting garment you've ever seen, but I know I'm going to be wearing this a lot. Here is my Presto tunic in a brown linen rayon blend. I really love this fabric. This is a size extra large with a full bust option. In general, I have made it shorter and just straightened out the hem. It's a very nice top. It's got lovely details, and I've got it over one of my Sibo Illusion skirts. This is the one that's fitted at the waist and hips and then has a flounce below the full hip area. A little bit of animal print going on. I think it's a fun outfit. This is the length that I've been using for all of my previous versions and this one as well. Up closer, you can see that I have an overlap vent on the side instead of it being a simple vent. It is functional. I can fully close it up if I want to. There's buttonholes, but I've just left one done and the other one not. The placket goes all the way down instead of just coming up to here and then having this on the fold. At the top, you can see this banded collar is very pretty. It's nice and closed, round, very well sewn in my opinion. And not having that seam there made it easier to sew. Shoulder and sleeve fit is really good. Everything's where it's supposed to be. 3 pin tucks on each side pressed into the middle here. I've done the hem of the sleeve and the hem at the bottom all by hand, so I don't have any top stitching right there. I always like doing that if I have time. I can wear it on its own like this. Plenty of ease, really comfortable, or open like a light layer. Here is my Presto worn open over my glissando bottoms. This is actually the same linen. I made all of these garments from the same fabric, so it's like a matching set. I wouldn't want to wear the shirt closed with the pants. I think it would be too much brown. So I've just broken it up with a red cami underneath. I've always loved red and brown together, and very casual, comfortable shoes, and an outfit I would be very happy to wear. When I'm talking to a camera here, I'm not actually sure what is able to pass the lens and how I'm able to convey how happy sewing in this way makes me. This is just so much fun for me, so enjoyable. Whenever I get to make a project like this, where it's just got my own spin to it, small changes, I just feel so satisfied, and I'm always super excited to share. Remember, everything you see here isn't just linked to the pattern that I'm using. You can apply these ideas to other patterns. You know, sewing is pretty universal. So the techniques that I show don't belong to just one specific pattern. Take my ideas and use them on other things. And I really, really enjoy sharing these things. I feel sort of strange if I just want to keep them to myself. It's just not the way that I like to sew. Any little thing that I think would be fun and interesting and easy for you to do, I'm always going to look for a way to share, especially when you can simplify some things. I'm just so happy to have shared this with you. I hope this was fun to watch. And don't forget to check out the Presto tunic this whole weekend, feature weekend, for $5. Always, my links are down below, my affiliate link, and all the videos I mentioned in the pinned comments and in the description box. Have an amazing weekend, and I'll see you soon. Bye.